as the Korean War escalated, and the battles over MiG Alley reached their ferocious peak. One of the war's most carefully guarded secrets hovered above the clouds. Many of the MiG-15's dueling with American Sabres were not piloted by Chinese or North Koreans, but by highly trained Soviet airmen. Officially, the Soviet Union denied involvement, eager to avoid a direct confrontation with the United States that might ignite World War III. Yet in reality, entire Soviet fighter regiments were rotated into the conflict under strict secrecy. Their aircraft bore North Korean or Chinese markings, their pilots forbidden from speaking Russian over radios, and their missions cloaked in layers of deception. But their skill could not be hidden. American pilots quickly noticed that certain MiGs behaved with a discipline and precision far beyond what they had come to expect, engaging with tactics honed in the crucible of the Second World War. These honchos, as U.S. flyers nicknamed them, were often Soviet veterans, men who had already survived dogfights with German Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, now bringing their deadly experience into a new kind of aerial war. They fought with cold efficiency, using the MiG's superior climb and heavy cannon armament to devastating effect. And many Sabre pilots learned too late that they were up against adversaries every bit as skilled as themselves. The presence of Soviet pilots turned MiG Alley into an even more dangerous crucible, for the stakes were no longer just tactical but geopolitical. Each clash carried the risk of sparking an international incident that could escalate the war beyond Korea. American intelligence quietly gathered evidence, intercepting radio chatter, debriefing returning pilots, and even recovering wreckage that pointed unmistakably to Soviet involvement. But political leaders on both sides maintained a veil of denial. Still, among the men who flew the missions, there was no doubt. Sabre pilots told stories of MiGs executing maneuvers with uncanny precision, of adversaries who seemed to anticipate every move, and of duels that ended only when one side was forced to dive for safety across the Yalu River. Soviet pilots, for their part, lived under the constant threat of exposure, ordered to conceal their identities at all costs. If captured, their existence in the skies above Korea would be disavowed by Moscow, leaving them as ghosts in a war that officially did not belong to them. Yet despite the secrecy, their impact was undeniable. They claimed hundreds of victories, challenged America's best, and helped prevent U.S. bombers from devastating the northern supply lines that sustained Chinese and North Korean forces. In doing so, they shifted the balance of power in the air, ensuring the war dragged on in stalemate, rather than ending in overwhelming American dominance. For the young U.S. pilots thrown into MiG Alley, facing a Soviet ace was both a terror and a grim badge of honor. For survival against such an opponent was proof of skill and luck in equal measure. The hidden Soviet role in Korea revealed the true global stakes of the conflict. Though the war was fought on a peninsula, its battles were threads in the larger fabric of the Cold War, where each move was a test of will between East and West. When the guns finally fell silent in 1953, the Soviet Union's role remained shrouded in official silence, its pilots returning home with little recognition, their victories buried in secrecy. Only decades later did the truth emerge, with records confirming that thousands of Soviet airmen had fought in Korea, that they had matched America's best in some of the most intense dogfights of the 20th century, and that the Cold War had come perilously close to igniting in the thin air above the Yalu. The battles of MiG Alley were not only a clash of jets, but a duel of ideologies, with Soviet pilots standing in the shadows as the invisible hand that shaped the outcome of the Korean skies.